we're going to be looking at comparing and ordering fractions. So we've compared and ordered decimals before, so we're going to do the same thing with fractions. So with each of these little segments, we're going to have some reminders that we need to keep in our minds. So first of all, we're going to start by comparing fractions. So one of our first important reminders is that before you compare fractions, they must have the same what? Does anybody know? Denominator. Good. So write that down. Before you compare fractions, they must have the same denominator. Okay? Before you compare fractions, they must have the same denominator. So let's look at some examples. Let's say I want you to compare 1/8 and 7/8. Do they have the same denominator?
Yes.
So can we compare them?
Yes.
Which is greater?
7/8.
7/8. So I write my symbol.
That's easy.
Okay?
Just like
Now, let's look at one where they don't have the same denominator. So let's say I want you to compare 7/10 and 1/2. One thing you can look for is, can we make one fraction have the same denominator as the other? So only change one of them. And can we do that?
Yes.
Yes. What can we change?
We can
change 1/2 because 2 is a what of 10?
multiple.
A factor. 10 is a multiple of 2, but 2 is a factor of 10. So we can turn this into an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10. How do we do that? I'm going to multiply by 5 to give me 5/10. Now, can I compare these fractions?
Yes.
Yes. Which one is greater?
7/10.
7/10. Okay? So get another one. What if I gave you 1/2 and 2/3? Can I make one the same as the other?
No.
Like we did in the second example.
No, it's not a factor of 3.
And 3 is not a factor of 2. And we can't make that work. But what could we do?
Multiply by 2 and 3.
So what common denominator are we going to use?
6.
6. You want to look for a multiple that they have in common, or the least common multiple. Okay? So they both, 2 and 3 are both factors of 6. We can multiply 2 times something and 3 times something to get 6. So what do we multiply 2 by to get 6? 3. So we're going to multiply 1 times 3 as well to get 3. What do we multiply 3 by to get 6? 2. So we multiply 2 times 2 to get 4. Now can I compare these?
Yes.
Yes. Which one's greater?
4/6.
4/6. I'm going to give you one more to do on your own.
That's 6 more.
I want you to compare 3/5 and 5/8. I'll give you about a minute, maybe less. First, get the same denominator, then you can compare.
Morton. There. It's on the deal. My hand is this way. This one's down to being a lefty.
Alright, can anybody tell me what common denominator they used?
40.
Yeah, you could use 40. Now, one trick that you can keep in mind, if you're not sure what their common denominator is, you can just multiply them by each other.
That's what I did.
So by doing 5 times 8, we get 40. That is a common denominator that they'll share. Okay? Ideally, you want to find the least common denominator, like the smallest denominator that they can share, but if you can't, that's fine. I think 40 is the least common multiple between the two of these. So, to go from 5 to 40, what did I do?
Multiply by 8.
I multiplied by 8. So 3 times 8 will be 24. How did I go from 8 to 40? I multiplied by 5, so 5 times 5 will be 25. Which one's greater?
25 and 40.
Okay? Now, there's another little trick that you can use that some of you might have heard as the butterfly method. Now, some people may have been told that you can't use this method, that it's not acceptable, but in my opinion, it works just the same. So if it's easier for you, then do it. I think it's totally fine. You still need to be able to do this, but as long as you're able to do that, if you just prefer the butterfly method, that's okay. So, if you're not sure, I'm going to show it to you.
Why is it not considered acceptable?
I don't know. I really don't know. Please do. One of my students in my first class just said that their teacher wouldn't let them use it, so I don't know. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I'm okay with it because it yields the same results. So, you guys are probably familiar with this, but basically you go from bottom to top in a diagonal direction. So, 15 times 2 is 30. 9 times 4 is 36. Which one of these is larger? 36. So which fraction is larger? 4/15. You've got to go from bottom to top. Bottom to top. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's an okay way for me.
Will we have to do the other method at some point?
You might. You need to be able to. Okay? Let's do another one. Say I give you 6/10 and 9/15. We would do 15 times 6, 10 times 9. What's 15 times 6? Anybody know? 90. If you don't know, you could do scratch work. What's 10 times 9? 90. So what do we know about these two fractions? They're equal. Okay? I want you to do this one on your own. And I actually want you to do this using both methods. So I'm going to write it twice. I want you to do the same comparison both ways. I'll give you a minute or two. Did I? Oh, sorry. This should be a 9. Sorry. Sorry. 6 8s and 7 9s. My bad. That would have been too easy. Right, do we have an answer?
Yes.
So, what did you notice about either method?
You would always end up getting the same answer.
You should.
By both ways.
Yeah.
If you did something, if you didn't get the same answer, you should always go back.
Yeah, so that could be a good way to check your work. You could do it one way and then do it the other way, and if they don't match, then maybe you did something wrong. But either way, you get the same thing. So in my opinion, either one's fine. Okay? All right, any questions on comparing fractions? Just regular old fractions. Okay, so now we're going to look at comparing mixed numbers and comparing improper fractions. Real quick, I mean, it's really going to be pretty similar to what we just did, but it's good to go over.
This is ordering fractions. How is this ordering fractions?
We're not there yet. We're comparing first, and then we'll do ordering. Okay, so we're going to compare mixed numbers first, then we're going to compare improper fractions. So let's say I were to give you 5 and 27 over 32, and 4 and 3/4. Lagging a little bit. Okay, right off the bat, what gives this away and makes it really easy to compare?
The whole number.
The whole number. You don't even have to look at the fraction. You can just look at that whole number and just automatically know that one's going to be larger. But if I were to give you 5 and 27 over 32 and 5 and 3/4, what would you have to do?
Compare it. Like solve it. Find a fraction.
You would need to kind of disregard the whole numbers and just look at the fractions, because the whole numbers are the same, so we really need to look at the fractions. I'm not going to work this one out because it's just like what we just did, but that's just a good thing to keep in mind. If you're looking at mixed numbers, don't overthink it. Look at the whole numbers first. If they're different, you can automatically know which one comes first. But if they're the same, then you have to look at the fractions. Okay, looking at improper fractions. Let's say I were to give you 13/4 and 11/9. There's a couple different ways you could approach this, but what do you think the easiest way would be? Any ideas? I would change it to a mixed number and then compare, because you might get lucky and the whole numbers will just be a dead giveaway. So 13/4 as a mixed number would be what?
3 and 1/4.
3 and 1/4. What about 11/9?
1 and 2 ninths.
Can you compare these now?
Yes.
Yes.
Couple numbers.
We know right away, looking at that whole number, one's bigger than the other. You could go and make a common denominator, but you're kind of making more work for yourself if you do that. But you will get the same result.
Those are fun.
Okay, now let's look at ordering.
A lot of those.
Yep. Just a lot of different examples I want to make sure you see. So we're going to look at just ordering a group of fractions, but we're also going to look at ordering a mixture of fractions and decimals, because sometimes you might have a couple fractions, a couple decimals that you have to put in order. Okay, but we're going to start with just fractions. So just like before, when we were comparing them, we had to have the same denominator. That same rule is going to apply. Before we can order fractions, they have to have the same denominator. So let's say I'll give you 3/8, and usually you're going to have like 3 or more to order. So let's look at one with 3. 3/8, 2/5, and 1/4. And I want you to order that from, let's do least to greatest. Okay, what's the first step that we have to do? Before we can order them, what do we have to do?
Find a common denominator.
We need to find a common denominator. What could we use?
40.
40. 40 is a multiple of 8, a 5, and a 4. Okay? So we are going to use 40. Now if it helps you to work this out like you're listing the least common multiple, just write out the multiples of 8, a 5, and a 4, that's fine. You might just kind of know that right off the bat. So, least common multiple, I think, will be 40 here. So, how do we go from 8 to 40? What do we do?
Multiply by 5.
Multiply by 5. What's 3 times 5?
15.
15. Okay, how do we go from 5 to 40?
8.
Times 8. What's 2 times 8?
16.
And how do we go from 4 to 40?
By 10.
Multiply times 10. Now that we have a common denominator, can I put them in order?
Yes.
Now when we do this, we want to go back to our original fractions. So if we're looking at these here, what comes first? 10/40ths or 1/4. When you write your final answer, you need to use the originals. What's going to come next?
3/8.
3/8. And what's last?
2/5.
2/5.
That was a lot of stuff.
But nothing you can't do, right?
Wait, do people often confuse your answers? And they might like in this example, like 50/40ths in their answer. People.
Alright, let me give you one to do on your own. I'm going to give you some mixed numbers. So I'm giving these to you with mixed numbers. What should you do?
Just look at the whole thing.
You could start by looking at the whole numbers. Do we need to change anything with the whole numbers? No. Leave the whole numbers aside,
Look at least the ways.
but look for a common denominator that they can all share. What do you think it's going to be? What's their common denominator? 30. These numbers are all factors of 30. So just to help you get started.
There's at least a greatest.
Yes, do at least to greatest. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Ish, till I finish writing. Alright, go ahead and check your answer. Get the same thing? So I just kept my whole numbers the same, found a common denominator, and then put them in the right order. Alright, the last thing we're going to look at is ordering fractions and decimals at the same time. Okay? So I'm going to flip to a new page. So a big thing to keep in mind when we're ordering fractions and decimals is before we can put them in the right order, what do we need to do? If we have fractions and decimals, we need to get them all in the same form. So if you want to change them all to fractions, they need to all be fractions. If you want to change them all to decimals, make them all decimals. We have to have them in the same form before we can put them in order. So let's do 3/8. 75/100 written as a decimal. 7/10 and 4/10 written as a decimal. So we've got two fractions, two decimals. Do we want to convert to decimals or convert to fractions? Raise your hand if you want to do all fractions. Okay, that's pretty much everybody. So that's what we'll do. You can do it the other way. If I have time, I'll show you the other way. So if we're going to convert them all to fractions, these are going to stay the same. They're already fractions, so we don't have to do anything to them. Okay, 75/100. How do I write that as a fraction?
75/100.
I'm going to write it as 75 over 100. Now, can I simplify that?
Yes.
To what?
3/4.
3/4. You want to simplify when you're ordering. Okay, what about 4/10? How do I write that as a fraction? 4 over 10
And that can be simplified.
to 2/5, yes. Okay, so now we've got 4 fractions. This looks like something we can do. Now looking at those fractions, what would we need to do next before we can order them?
Make more of a common denominator.
Find a common denominator. What should we use?
40.
You could use 40.
Again.
Yep. You're going to pick up on the common denominators that different fractions will share. Alright, so we know that 8 times 5 is 40. 3 times 5 would give us 15. We know 4 times 10 is 40. 3 times 10 would be 30. I know 10 times 4 is 40. 7 times 4 would give me 28. And then 5 times 8 is 40. 2 times 8 is 16. Now that they're all in the correct form, same denominator, now we can put them in order. But when we order them, we go back to the what? The original numbers, whether it was a fraction or a decimal, we go back to the beginning. So let's say this time, I want to go from greatest to least. From largest to smallest. Greatest to least. Which one's going to come first? 30/40ths or
16/40. Okay, so no. 75/100.
Thank you, 75/100ths. We want to go back to the original. What's going to come next?
78/48.
Or 7/10ths, good. What's after that?
3/8. 3/8.
Greatest to least.
4/10.
4/10ths. 16 is larger than 15. So 4/10ths. Then what's the smallest?
3/8.
3/8. Okay? Now really quickly, I'm going to show you how we can change them to all decimals. I'm not going to order them again because we get the same thing. But if you prefer to do it the other way, I'm going to show you that. So same numbers. I'm going to have 3/8, 75/100, 7/10, 4/10. And let's say I want to keep them all in decimal form. So these are going to stay the same. But I need to convert these to decimals. Let's start with this one, 7/10. How do I write that as a decimal? 0.7. That one's pretty easy. Now 3/8, I don't know off the top of my head, so what do I need to do? How do I convert a fraction to a decimal?
Multiply it by a number.
I divide. 3 divided by 8. I'm going to just do this quick. Add a decimal to 0. 8 goes into 30 3 times. 8 goes into 60 7 times. 8 goes into 45 times. So 3/8 written in decimal form is 375 thousandths. Now could you go through and order those from greatest to least or least to greatest?
Yes.
Yes. So either way, whether you like to convert to fractions like we did first or to decimals is up to you. If you have like 3 and 2 of them are fractions, one's a decimal, it probably makes sense to just do all fractions. So you only have to convert one or the other way around. You might have to compare a fraction and a decimal. Which one's greater, which one's less than. Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
We know how to do that. All you have to do is just convert it, make them both fractions or both decimals. Questions? Yes.
Can this be on our quiz tomorrow?
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk more about your quiz tomorrow when we get back, but this will be on it. Okay?